Good morning, students. Welcome to today's newspaper analysis of day. So, just will briefly scan the important articles of this today's newspaper, starting with the Trump safe after shooting in Washington. Yesterday, during the time of dinner in some hotel, so there is a shooting happened, but no one got hurt. So that's good. Yeah, when AI falls short, a human voice comforts. Actually, that is very true. When it comes to the editorials, today's editorial was former intelligence bureau chief, like MK Narayan. So what the main crux of this article is Trump's hubris and the cost of the old order. So Trump's irrational and irradical decisions are very radical decisions, which is how it is impacting the global order and how these countries were change their perception to see the US as their security guarantor. For example, the Gulf countries, which obviously that traditionally they see that US as a security guarantor, but it doesn't provide enough security during the time of the Iran's continuous drones attacks on their infrastructure. Okay. And also, next important thing was being in such a high position in the global order. So his decision should be more tilted towards the institutionalized decisions, not of his individualized decisions. If he's taking the decisions based on his individuality, so it is creating a lot of uncertainty and instability in the global old order. That is what the author is telling. So there are some important things how his irrational decisions has caused chaos in the global order. That is what the author is discussed. So we'll discuss a little deep. And next, summer as a source of workers. So we have seen there is a lot of research towards, but because of the surging summer heat in the present condition, also because of the super El Nino. So we have very strong summers, which has a very heat. So these summers, what they are doing, it is creating a thermal inequality. Thermal inequality. It's we can see the income inequality, but the same thing the author is telling that it is also giving some thermal inequality. Why? Because the service employees or some other employees, they can work from 9 to 6 or whatever the times in the office in a very pleasant cool place. Okay, if the summers are too high, they can even work from home. That option is also available for most of the employees. But when it comes to the gig workers or the delivery workers, you don't have those kind of flexibility. Okay, their income and their performance just depends on the algorithmic push of number of deliveries they have done in a day. If they have done the less deliveries, they will earn the less, and also they will attract the more punishments from these companies. So governments has to push towards the welfare of these gig workers. That is what the synopsis of this article. Okay. Next important article was like here there is a our Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat session. In the Man Ki Baat session, what he addressed. So these are the important things he addressed. He hails the India's stride in nuclear. So recently there is a criticality achieved by PFBR, prototype fast breeder reactor in the Kalapakkam in Tamil Nadu, where it is a 500 megawatt reactor where it achieves the full criticality, means a continuous chain reaction is happening. So it can work now completely on its, the complete chain reaction was happened. So that is the achievement of the full criticality. The world, many of the countries, they congratulated India. It's one of the greatest achievement. So India congratulated that, and also India hails India's wind power. So now the wind capacity of India was came to the 56 gigawatts. 56 gigawatts. In the past 1 year, about 6 gigawatt of new capacity is added in just 1 year. Past 1 year, 6 gigawatts of new capacity. After the solar, in the renewable energies, after the solar, so next highest contributor of the renewable energy is the wind energy. Okay. Next, he also discussed about the census. Census said it is not just a government job; it is our active participation. As a citizens, we have to participate actively to register our family details and our details. And he assured, our Prime Minister assured that all the details which are in very secretive and completely encrypted format and very confidential. He will keep all the details in very confidential manner. And even they launched the online census, like we can register our own family details by our own, like in the online portals. So next important article. So here we can see rupee depreciation and its impact on investments. Very, very important because of the present uncertainties. The rupee is depreciating. The rupee depreciating, and definitely it will negatively impacts, right? So definitely not a positive impact on our investments. Negative impacts. Even the foreign investors, maybe they earn more money. Like for example, now the $1 is equal to 94 Indian rupees. If they invest now, they will get more exchange value. But when it is the limited time investments, when it is a limited time investments, then that is not good. That is not good for them. So they invest less. The four important reasons why the rupee instability, the rupee depreciation is. So one of the reasons was the West Asian war. And because of that, our exports and the transshipments, the supply of the goods hampered. And also huge import bills, huge import bills, unable to export. And also the FPI outflows. The foreign portfolio investors, they are selling their investments in India and they're taking that money. And definitely, if they take their money, definitely they will take the money in the form of dollars. So for that, they will exchange the Indian rupees with the dollars. So what will happen? Our forex reserves will gradually comes down. That is what happening, and that is the single reason why India slips from fourth largest GDP to the sixth largest GDP. Okay, so we'll discuss that this article 2, and the next important article when it comes to the international relations, Arachi. Arachi is the foreign minister of Iran. He heads to Russia after the diplomatic push in Pakistan. So in the Pakistan, the talks were not very successful. Now he is going to the Russia. And next, the Sri Lanka seeks investments for the loss-seeking Matala Airport. Matala Airport is an airport built in Sri Lanka by China. Even without understanding, without studying the demand of that infrastructure project. So they funded the project and they constructed the project. And it has that airport has the tagline of the world's emptiest airport, world's emptiest airport, which is not even getting a single like dollar revenue on a day for some time. Sometimes it even not get a single dollar revenue in a day. So that is what happening here. So now the Sri Lanka government want to actively transfer this project, and to cover the for constructing it is spent almost 2 million US dollars. Like initially, like 2 million US dollars means almost 2000 crores they have sent, 1800 to 2000 crores they have spent for a project to get the tagline of world's emptiest airport. And now it accumulated the $130 million debt. So now Sri Lanka government is in the Act 2 active progress to save this airport by selling this to the investors. So that's why it is acting there. It is the best classical example for the China's debt trap diplomacy. So we'll also discuss that. And next important article we'll discuss about is this: how AI helped the community-led the development in Rajasthan. In the Rajasthan, there are two districts where previously seriously water stressed districts. In the districts, what happens? Look, there is a huge gap between the governance and the public. Nowadays, AI is actually involving in in everything, including the governance, like WhatsApp governance, e-governance, certain things. Still, there is a huge gap between the governance and people. And here, so as a pilot project, so what they have done, they clearly, so here we can see the gist. The authors designed a pilot project called AI for Water Policy in the water stress Sirohi and Pali districts of Rajasthan. So we'll discuss this article, how AI helped the community-led development in Rajasthan. How AI led the community development project. Community development project in Rajasthan. It's a classical AI case study, like which you can use for your mains answer writing, also for your essays, and also for your ethics and interview. So many places you can mention this article. So here, what happened here was like there are two districts in Rajasthan named Sarohi and Pali. And in these two are strongly water stressed districts, which means women have to walk miles to get the water. And what happened here? The women have to travel miles to get the everyday water. So then you can ask the question, what the government is doing. Government exactly not knowing exactly what is happening at the very much ground level, and also the panchayat, the processing of the files, the funding of the projects, it is all getting delayed. First thing, what it is missing is what exactly these women are feeling. So what is their intention towards the policies of the government is no one to listen to these women. So this AI for water. So this AI for water policy, what happened? This kind of organization, it's a pilot project, AI for water policy. So they have employed the people called Pani Mitras. They have employed some volunteers called Pani Mitras. And these Pani Mitras, what they have done, they have reached to the women. They have reached to the women and they have given a mobile, AI-based, AI-enabled mobile. So with the AI-enabled mobile, what it has done, this AI-enabled mobile, it has yearly personally asked 20-minute conversation. 20-minute conversation with this women, like women, especially in the two districts where there is no one to listen, or because of the social stigma or the social situations, they are unable to open their voices. But clearly, this AI-enabled WhatsApp-based system clearly listen to their daily activities and whatever the problems they are facing, especially with the water stress. So they clearly listen to them and clearly note it down, and it also the same devices, it is also given to the panchayat officers, and they panchayat level workers, so they also registered their complaints or the grievances, and cumulatively what it has done, it has identified the cumulatively it has identified the core problem. So these AI enabled system, they enable the core problems. The core problems like active community participation is less. Active community participation is less. And the very slow movement of files, very slow movement of funding projects, very slow movement of funding projects. Okay. And also the less water availability and double burden faced by women. Double burden in the sense, like women, they have to work, they have to walk the miles for to getting the water. At the same time, when they return, they have to do the household things. These are the double burden. So community participation, slow movement of funding projects, and also less water in the double burden. These are the important findings it has found by these AI-enabled AI per water policy project. In this project, what they happened, they able to bridge the gap between the people and the governance. Now they are able to bridge the gap between the people and the government, and with the help of volunteers called Pani Mitras. With the help of volunteers called Pani Mitras. So this is one of the classical example where the AI helps to bridge the gap between the governance and the communities and try to bring together to get some effective solutions. So that is what this synopsis of this article is. So next article we'll see. So we'll come with the editorial. Okay. So this editorial is very important. This editorial was written by our former National Security Advisor, at the same time Intelligence Bureau. So M.K. Narayan, and he's also former governor of West Bengal. So that's why this article is very important. So what happened? So the main thing he is questioning was Trump's illiberal decisions. So Trump's illiberal decisions. whether it is from the Venezuela, the abducting of the Venezuela's president Nicolas Maduro, and the Iran's West Asia war. So war with the Iran or West Asian war. So what he is telling, because of the his illiberal and irrational decisions, what it is, he is making the world countries to suffer, especially the developing countries like India, the classical example. And from the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks of our newspaper analysis, we're continuously discussing about this issue only. Like because of this global uncertainty, there is a like the uncertainty in the Iran, where the 20% of the crude oil exports here or transshipment is impacted, which impacts the surge in the global crude oil prices. So when the crude oil prices increases, India's economy will strongly hit, and that is also one of the reasons why India slipped from fourth largest GDP to the sixth largest GDP because of the rupee depreciation. And the rupee depreciation, one of the main cause was this West Asian war, which India has no role, but still India has to take its impact. Okay, so this is all because of the decision of the irrational or the personalized decisions of the Trump, and whether he get any solution for this, whether he got any solution. No, the solution was no. Whether he able to stop the Iran effectively, definitely no. Even today, even the US Navy was clearly, there at stopping, blocking the seaports of Iran, but still the major important points, the Strait of Hormuz and the important strategic choke points, still it's in the control of the Iran. So to any ship to pass the Strait of Hormuz, so without the permission of Iran, it is getting very difficult. So even he tells that effectively we achieved all our goals with the Iran conflict, but clearly Iran is able to survive and sustain in this conflict very effectively, and it will survive and sustain in the future also, because it has very good relations with the China, it has good relations with the Russia, and these many countries. There are some countries which are strongly supporting the Iran. Okay, so and it can also effectively survive in this conflict. Okay, so next, losing trust on US by some Gulf countries. So some Gulf countries, what they're doing, some Gulf countries like, for example, Saudi Arabia, what they're doing is, traditionally these Gulf countries are protected by US, and due to the present situation, especially the time when Iran attacked these countries, whether US able to provide the proper security for these countries' infrastructure or not, definitely no. The answer is no. So US is in a situation that it is unable to protect its own infrastructure, its own bases. Okay, because of the Iran's weapons like the Shahid drones. So it is enabled to protect itself, and it is not unable to give protection to the West Asian countries. Especially the Gulf countries like the Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, these kind of countries. So what they are doing, the classical example. So when the Saudi Arabia understood this, so they are started to find the new security partners like Pakistan. So now they have made a security pact, right? If anyone attacks the Pakistan, it's their onus on the Pakistan to attack. As now they made a mutual security agreement, okay, which is definitely will not in good with India. So definitely it will impact the Indian relations, because whenever Saudi Arabia, when they were connecting some business with India, definitely they will see in the lens with the Pakistan. Whether Pakistan, when these decisions will make Pakistan happy or not, definitely they will see. And the Pakistan relations also with the Saudi Arabia is improved. Recently, the Pakistan has taken the loan from the UAE in the previous times, and now UAE has asked the Pakistan to repay, and the Pakistan has asked the Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia immediately released the money. You can see the bonahome, the close friendship is going between the Pakistan and the Saudi Arabia, which will negatively impact the India's foreign policy towards with the Saudi Arabia. That is what the author is cautioning, and he has also cautioned that these present modern wars present modern wars unable to yield any result, unable to yield any result. So that is what he is telling. These present modern wars unable to yield any results. Okay. So there is no there is no clear winners. For example, you take the Ukraine and the Russia conflict, or the present Iran and the American conflict. Who is the real winner? There is no one. Even the Trump boasting that like we achieved our objectives, and still the Iran is able to survive and like able to give its punch back to the Strait of Hormuz at the contested areas. Okay. Next, high diplomatic giving high diplomatic importance to the high diplomatic importance to Pakistan. So what is this? Like the Pakistan present army general Asim Munir, he developed a close relation with the US Trump, and now they have made the Pakistan as a base place, or the place where these peace talks happening, which means that they want to project the Pakistan is a place of peace, means which definitely impacts the India's image. The way they choose, instead of India, they have choose the Pakistan, so which makes the importance of the foreign policy of the US was tilted towards the Pakistan instead of India. So especially the not the US, that is the policy of Trump. So that's why in the article which argues that, clearly argues that, so a person who is in a high global order, a person who was in a position in a high global order and which has an immense power, and his decisions, if he is taking his decisions based on his individuality or his individual personality instead of institutionalized decisions, so definitely it will create a major global uncertainty. This is what the author strongly pressing. So a person in a high global order, he has to make the decisions not based on his individuality. He has to take the decisions based on the institutional growth. So if he chooses individuality, definitely it will create the huge imbalance in the global world or the world countries. So that is what happening at present. That is the other what he is stressing. And next important article we'll discuss about the next important article was so summer as a source of income shock for gig workers. Summer as a source of income shock for summer as a source of income shock for gig workers. Summer as a source of income shock for the gig workers. So this is the article. So what it is clearly telling that the summer are the present natural events, the natural occurrence of high summer or the high heat surge due to the super El Nino or whatever the conditions, what are the conditions which is making the summers more heat. In this more heat, the people who affects in the summer, the people who affects instead of the traditional service employees, like for example teachers or the IT software workers, so they go to the office in the morning and they will come back in the evening and they feel the less impact of this heat. But the people who are working in this heat, they are like delivery workers, delivery and gig workers, delivery and gig workers. So they are the people who are getting impacted of thermal inequality. So they are facing the thermal inequality. It's not the society, even the nature itself is showing its impact on these people. Why? Because these are the people who is their employment or earning of the money depends on the number of deliveries they do. So number of more deliveries, if the deliveries are high, what happens if the deliveries are high? Their income also will be raised, and their income is also raised. If the deliveries are low, their income will also low. So what happens if the deliveries are low, income is low? So it also negatively impacts their families. More than they negatively impacts their families, then these algorithmic push, the algorithmic push. What happens this algorithmic push? Especially in the summers, people want more beverages or more food, so they don't want to go outside, they want to order more. So what happens? Algorithmic push. This you will get the more delivery orders, and you are unable to deliver. Even if you deliver in this hot summer, what will happen? You, because of this hot, your body was unable to cooperate with you because of the fatigue or the what water loss in the body or dehydration issues, whatever. So when the health impacted, what happens? When the health of these gig workers impacted, so it also impacts their families and their family income. Family income. Is it true? Yes, definitely it is true. Now what the order is telling, so government has to take certain measures. Government has to take certain measures. What kind of measures the government has to take? So they have to make a clear policy. They have to make a clear policy to support these gig workers. Clear policy to support these gig workers and give certain protections. Give certain protections. And even the companies, they provide some rest time. They provide some rest time to these gig workers instead of so based on the deliveries you have to work, so they have to provide some rest time in the very hot summer, like very hot days. Okay, because it will definitely impact their health. So they impact their health, definitely their family's income also will decrease, and their families are also unable to sustain because of the heat. And more than that, it is also on onus on the public also. They want what they want, whether he is coming on the heat days or not, they want them to deliver their product. So they don't care about the conditions of the people who delivers. So that's why it's also not just based on the companies or the organizations like the Zomato, Swiggy, not just the organization or not just the government, it's also on the public should also cooperate, that even if it takes a little more time, they should able to wait. Okay, this is the important, because the gig workers and the delivery workers also very important part of our economy, and it is our responsibility, the government's responsibility, also the organizational responsibility to protect these people who are largely affected by this environmental inequality. So that is the clear picture of this article. Okay. So next article will discuss about rupee depreciation and its impact on the investments. So rupee depreciation and its impact on the investments. Rupee depreciation and its impact on the investments. So rupee depreciation and its impact on the investments is very clear. So why the rupee is depreciation? For example, at present, like for example, $1 is almost equal to 94 rupees. So this is the first time. So the rupee was depreciated. $1 is almost equal to 94 rupees. And clearly, what are the reasons for this kind of depreciation? One is the West Asian uncertainty. The West Asian uncertainty, like the present uncertainty. And next important, huge import bill. Huge import bill. And the next important was weak exports. Weak exports. And the other reason was foreign FPI outflows. So very, very important, because these investors, so they lack the confidence on the Indian economy. What they're doing, they're selling their investments and their stocks, and they're leaving the Indian market. So while they're leaving the Indian market, definitely they will take their money in the form of dollars, not in the rupees. Okay. So these are the important major reasons, the 4 important reasons why the rupee is depreciating. So what is the impact when the rupee depreciate? When the rupee depreciate, what happens? When the rupee depreciate, so definitely the input cost for the companies will increase. Input cost for the companies will definitely increase. So input cost means the raw materials or the resource materials for the companies will increase because of the gas or the oil, these kind of things, fertilizers, whatever the things, so which are hugely based on the imports. So the input cost of the companies will increase. Then what happens? The revenue of the companies will be less. The revenue of the companies will be less. When the revenues of the companies will be less, then what happens? They're transfer to unable to transfer to workers, and workers will get less salary, their salary will not change, but the purchasing power of that money will decrease. The purchasing power of the money will decrease. For example, the purchasing power of the money will decrease. So what's mean by the purchasing power of the money? For example, just simple, you take the one plate breakfast, one plate of the breakfast. In the previous it cost around 30 to 40 rupees. Because of the surge in the fuel and gas prices, what happens? The future, especially the unavailability of the gas, what happened? The prices of the, even they didn't change the cost of the price, but the government unable to meet the demand of the gas, especially in the commercial market, made the commercial markets to increase their prices. That is one of the reasons we have to pay more. Even we are getting the same salaries, and the people get the same salaries, or the no improvement in the salaries, but they have to pay more for the same product which they are consuming every day or based on their needs. So which means the purchasing power of the individual is decreasing. Okay, and because of that, the purchasing power of the individual is decreasing. So what the author is telling? Author is telling, for the investments, you have to take gold and also the global investments, global stocks or global investments. That is one of the safest way to invest. And next important article which we will discuss was that Matala Airport. Matala Airport. And this is the one of the important project for Sri Lanka, but without any demand expectations or the demand studies. So they have given the permission for the Chinese companies. They are taking for constructing this project. Of course, there are some corruption allegations also there on this project. There is no demand to construct this airport, but still they constructed the airport. And there is no passengers also. And it has the tagline of the world's emptiest airport. This is how the classical example of China's debt trap diplomacy. China's debt trap diplomacy. Until now, we commonly discuss about the Hambantota Airport. Sorry, Hambantota Port. Hambantota Port is an important port which is constructed by the Chinese company, but still it's unable to commercialize properly or not getting the proper planned profits. So what the Sri Lanka government has to do, it has to lease to a Chinese company for 100 years. So whenever we discuss a debt trap diplomacy, we usually use this example as a very standard example. Now this Matala Airport, the world's emptiest airport, which is constructed of 2,000 crores, 2,000 Indian rupees, means when you convert conversions, like 2,000 Indian rupees, they have converted this 2,000 crore Indian rupees, they have constructed this infrastructure project with the 2,000 crore Indian rupees constructed infrastructure project, and which is not yielding even sometimes a single rupee on a day sometimes. So there are some very small businesses happening, but sometimes not even single dollar also. Because of this, it got the title of the world's emptiest airport, and now it accumulated almost $130 million of debt. So now the Sri Lanka government, they want to clear this debt. So that's why it is asking the domestic and the foreign investors to invest in this project. So this is how the classical examples of the debt trap diplomacy. Okay. And next, okay, this is Sri Lanka, and the important news, the Arakchi, the Iranian foreign minister, he is heading to the Russia after the diplomatic push in Pakistan. That is very important. And so Ukraine marks the Chernobyl anniversary amid Russia war. 40th anniversary of the Chernobyl incident, which is it's a man-made disaster. You can clearly say it's a man-made disaster. The Chernobyl incident is a man-made disaster. where some experiments went failure, like the simple testing went into some negative setbacks and where the reactor explodes. And it is almost 40 years back. It has happened in the Chernobyl, which is at present in the Ukraine, and previously it's in the USSR, Soviet Russia. Okay. And these are the important articles of the day. So we'll discuss the tomorrow's newspaper on tomorrow. And thank you for being with us. So please do subscribe if you continue to listen this series. Thank you.